Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? I had lots of coffee this morning. I'm still going. We've been talking all day long, actually. So today, what we're covering is the stuff you need to know about your senior year and more specifically about college applications. Make sense? Okay, in here, how many of you are applying to a four-year college? Raise your hand for me. That's what I thought. Okay, how many are applying to a two-year college, either as a backup to your four-year or as your primary? Perfect. Okay. What we're going to talk about is what you need to know leading up to your college applications and getting through that process. So we're going to start off with something called SchoolLinks. You guys recognize what that is? You heard that name before. It rings a bell. SchoolLinks is our college application management system. You will go through SchoolLinks, do a lot of different things. You will get trained on SchoolLinks next week on Thursday. I literally just finished that video before I came here. So that's coming up. And we'll walk you through how to use SchoolLinks as we go. All right. Let's start off with this, communication. Communication is key to this process. All right. How many of you guys check your Claremont Unified School District email? Raise your hand. How many of you check it every day? Yeah, one person. That's it. That's exactly what we expected, is one person. Okay, here's the reality. When you're going through the college application process, they will send you emails. They will give you 1 week to respond. If you don't respond, they don't care. They don't want you. Make sense? You do not have a lot of leeway. You need to take care of things immediately. What that means is most of you should not be using your Claremont Unified School District email for your college applications. Get it? Okay. You need another email, a college email, one that is appropriate. Not a joke. Heck, when I was your age, I had the email account. Thank you. Appreciate that. I had the email account throwrocks@yourmom.com. Isn't that awesome? Okay. That's like the best email address, right? Not appropriate for college application. Some of yours are worse than that. Mm-hmm. We all know Hot Mama 42. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Okay. No, true story. At Claremont High School, I don't remember how long ago it was. I don't know if you remember. We had a student here who had an inappropriate email address that referenced something inappropriate inside the email tag. And we got a phone call from an admissions rep telling us so. Guess who didn't get admitted? My God. It's exactly the issue. So please be very careful with your email address. Okay? Question?
If our personal email is appropriate for colleges, would you
perfectly fine.
Make another one? Or just
nope, you can keep the same one as long as you're checking it on a regular basis. That's really the key. Okay? I make these jokes because I do want to talk about something serious for real here. Please be very careful about what your online presence says about you. It is very easy right now for colleges to Google search your name and see what you post. Please be very careful what is online about you. I had a student many years ago now who had a baseball scholarship taken away from him because of what he posted based on what he did on a Friday night. Get it? Please be very careful. It was a $200,000 mistake for this kid. Yeah.
Alone on a Friday night?
No, with friends. $200,000 mistake this kid made. So please be very careful what you do online and how you represent yourself. All right. Next thing on here. By now, you should already have a list of colleges you're applying to. Yes? Everybody? We do? Fabulous. That list needs to be two things. Number one, it needs to be balanced. And number two, it needs to be reasonable. When I say balanced, what do I mean? Somebody.
Safeties, targets.
You have a safety, you have a target, you have a reach. Absolutely. That's what a balance is. What does it mean to be reasonable? Nobody knows? Okay, here we go. Let's say one of your reach schools is UCLA. It's a great school, right? UCLA, great school. You want to go to UCLA. That is considered a reach school for pretty much everybody on this campus, I'll be honest with you. Okay, if you are planning to apply to UCLA and you have a 2.5 GPA, is that a reach school? No, it's not a reach school.
That's just an impossibility.
That is an unreasonable school, and that's why we say it needs to be reasonable. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, let's push on. Let's keep talking. Every college you have on your list needs to be added in SchoolLinks. We will show you how to start applications in SchoolLinks. That is coming up. Don't freak out just quite yet. If you really like, Mr. Trosh, I want to do it right now. I don't want to wait till next Thursday in homeroom when we show you. See that little link right there? That's the application manager that'll show you exactly how to add those colleges in SchoolLinks. Fair enough, guys?
And I just want to add in what Mr. Trosh said. Every college needs to be added in SchoolLinks, because I know you're going to hear that Cal State UCs, there's no transcripts, no letters of recommendation. Even if you're applying to community college, make sure you put every school in SchoolLinks, because down the road, if you are sent an email and they want a mid-year transcript, it makes it a lot easier process if that school's already in there once you communicate with your counselor, so that we can send that to that campus.
Absolutely. Pushing on, we're going to talk about UCs and Cal State applications. Now, I like to group these together. How many of you guys are planning to apply to a UC or a Cal State? Okay, who knows the deadline?
November 30th.
November 30th. You better know. You saw this presentation already. November 30th. So November 30th is the deadline. Now, that is the deadline for the UCs and Cal States. What happens if you turn it in 1 minute late?
You don't get in.
You actually can't. It closes and there's nothing you can do. You have to make sure all of your college apps are on time. And in fact, Mr. Anderson and I are going to tell you, your deadline is not November 30th. It is November 23rd.
Because last week everyone's going to cram on the site.
Last week, everybody jumps on the site. And every year that I've been here, and I've been here 15 years, every single year, without fail, the Cal State application crashes and the UC application crashes. And what that means for you is if you're not done and it's crashing, you don't get to turn in your application. There are no extensions. There have been 2 extensions in the 15 years I've been at CHS. 2 extensions given by the UCs.
Wasn't there one last year?
One of them was because the crash was so bad that it was gone for 3 or 4 days, the whole website. The other one was during the fires up in Santa Barbara, and only the students who lived in Santa Barbara were allowed to turn it in late. That's it. They don't care if you don't get it in. Remember, they've got 30 other thousand students that they're looking at for that spot. It does not matter. If you're late, it doesn't happen. As a good rule of thumb, every application should be turned in a week before the deadline. Yes? Beautiful. All right.
Another thing you need to consider is that on that Friday of that week, I'm heading in my car along with Mr. Trosh, all the other counselors, and we're going to be out of school for a week.
It's Thanksgiving and I'm in a turkey coma.
Yeah, so if you find yourself on vacation and you're needing support, you're going to be on your own, because most of those lines at those campuses, they're going to be on vacation as well. So it's good to get it done before that, so you're not stressing through that Thanksgiving break, not being able to submit something because you need some assistance.
Okay. Both the UC application and the Cal State application are self-reported. They're looking at the grades that you report. Okay. You get to put in the grades. You're going to get a copy of your transcript from your counselor during credit checks. You will take that copy of the transcript and you will list on the UC and Cal State application the grades that you got. They will not typically get a transcript until the end of the school year. So they're basing your admissions based on how you're reporting on the transcript. Make sure you are honest and accurate. Okay? Because if it's inaccurate, at the end of the school year, they get something different, you will have your admissions rescinded. And we're going to talk about that near the end on another topic. That is not a good thing. Okay? The UC app also has the personal insight questions. How many of you have looked at the personal insight questions? Okay. How many have no clue what I'm talking about? The rest of you just haven't bothered to look yet. Okay, perfect. You need to be working on those now. In the UC app, that will take you the most time is finishing those. Okay, those of you who have looked at it, they're not hard. They're relatively easy questions. But remember, you have a short amount of space to write in, and it needs to be perfect. This is your interview. You think about it, if you're applying for a job, you do an interview, you can sell yourself in that interview. This is your interview for applications. Does that make sense? You need to spend a lot of time on those questions. Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, you're going to get a copy of your transcript when you come for senior credit checks next week from your counselor. In my experience, students who have made mistakes is not because of dishonesty. It's just because you're overlooking something and not reporting it the right way. So again, I know we'll talk about it, but Tuesday, Thursday, we're going to have college application labs. I highly recommend that you come. And while you're in that process, you have someone just check it over to make sure that you're on the right path with it. Or if you have questions before you hit submit, you have someone check it out to make sure that you've inputted everything the right way. Because I would hate for you to not get through that admissions process just because of a mistake that you've done, not because you haven't made it.
You remind me of some issues we had last year, especially with the Cal State app, where students, their A through G requirements weren't being shown as met simply because they incorrectly coded them in the Cal State app. So one of the things we would encourage you to do is, as you're doing these applications, come to one of the college app labs and have one of the counselors look it over for you before you hit that submit button. Okay? Quick question?
Like, how much personality do you put in your like application essays?
You know what?
Is there anything that's too much?
That's a great question. You see this video link right here? We have a whole video just on your essays. Watch the video. Good? That's little sale for this little sheet. All right. Let's keep going. We are going to jump down to out-of-state public schools. Okay, anybody looking at going to a school outside of California? Public school outside of California or private? Both. Okay. If you're looking at public schools in the Western United States, okay, you want to be looking at the Western University Exchange. So, if you are, what school, by the way? Tell me. Not in WUI? Okay. Anybody going to like an Oregon school, Colorado school, Arizona school?
Hawaii.
No? Hawaii? Okay. Here's what you need to understand. When you go to a public school out of state, you're going to be charged something called out-of-state tuition. It's the same thing if somebody from, let's say, Arizona comes to California, they get charged out-of-state tuition. That is tuition that is above what the normal tuition is because, in theory, your parents' tax dollars have paid for part of your in-state tuition. That's the reason you get in-state tuition instead of out-of-state. Okay. You can get a discount on the out-of-state tuition by going through the Western University Exchange. So, if you're applying to a public school in the Western United States, look at that and see if they're part of WUI. Not every school is part of that program. And even at the schools that are part of the program, not every major is a part of the program. But it could save you a significant amount of money, up to $5,000 a year. So it's really worth your time to look at Western University Exchange if that's something you're considering doing. Okay? Pushing down, we're going to talk about private schools. Generally speaking, there are three ways you're going to apply to private schools. The first way is the Common App, and it is the most common as the Common App. Okay, you guys have probably heard this. I'm going to guess most of the people in this room already have accounts. True? Right? Those of you who don't worry, you're not behind. Don't freak out. Okay? That Common App account is one application. I believe it's 900 schools. It's probably more than that by now. But you complete one application and you can hit send to multiple schools. That is the big benefit of it. Now, there will be some schools that will have be called supplemental essays. Those of you who have a Common App, you've probably already run into it. That means just one more additional essay you have to write for that school. Okay, but it does simplify the process a lot for you. So that's one way. Okay, a majority of you will apply. If you're applying to private schools, the majority of you will use the Common App. The second way is an institutional app. Now, these are schools who haven't chosen to participate in the Common App or the Coalition App. We'll talk about that in a second. But have chosen to have their own application on their own website. Places like APU have this. Places like Laverne have this. These are schools that they want their own application, and you will apply directly through that school. Does that make sense? Then there's that final category, which is the Coalition App. Most Coalition apps are also Common App schools. The vast majority of them are. Coalition App is a little more complicated for students. It's a little more challenging for you to complete. It's more challenging and less user-friendly for counselors. We would recommend, if you have an option between Coalition App and Common App, we recommend that you do Common App. Okay?
Yep.
One key thing here, and one of the big factors why we say this, is with Coalition App, I cannot track your stuff. With Common App, I can see, hey, your letter was sent, your transcript was read, they've actually looked at your transcript, I can see all that. I can't see that with Coalition App. Does that make sense, guys?
Currently, there's only one school that requires you to apply through the Coalition app, and that's the University of Washington in Seattle.
I was right.
Yeah.
Good.
Other than that,
okay.
you have the option to use that Common App or their own institution app. So that's the only school that requires you to apply through Coalition.
Okay. When you're applying to private schools, you will have to do letters of recommendation. Who writes letters of recommendation for you?
Counselors and teachers.
Counselors and teachers. Teachers from what year?
Preferably junior year.
Preferably junior year. You should be trying to get teachers from last year that you connected with. Some of you may have a teacher from your sophomore year. You're just like, I love them. That's fine. You can ask them. But at least one of your recommenders needs to be from junior year. Does that make sense? And I know as much as you love Mr. Easton, he's only had you for a week. Okay?
No,
You need
I've had him
teachers.
for 3 years already.
You need teachers who know you well. Does that make sense? Okay. On letters of recommendation, the due date for your counselor and your teacher materials is September 26th. That's not very far from now. Okay. Originally, it was the Friday before that. Counselors got together and decided you guys needed that extra weekend to finish it because we always have students stressed out. I see a head nodding. You're like, yep, I need that. So we gave you an extra weekend. We realize this falls on Rosh Hashanah. If anybody celebrates Rosh Hashanah, don't freak out. You can turn it on Tuesday. Nobody's going to be upset with you. Don't miss. You're fine, okay? But if you do on Tuesday, it's fine. Yes?
This is all letter of rec materials. Is that just a questionnaire?
I'm going to show you exactly. Yep, that's a great question. So let me move into that next. What do you need to submit? The first thing you need to do is you need to submit a counselor questionnaire. Okay. After your essays, the next most important part of your application is your counselor letter recommendation. Okay? Some of you in this room I know really well. You're my student, and I know you pretty darn well, huh? Do I know you well enough to write you a good letter? What do you think?
Maybe.
No. And I know you pretty well. And I don't know you well enough to write you a good letter. Okay, here's the reality. Our letters are designed to represent you as a whole person. I need to tell you who you are to these colleges as a whole person. That is what we are trying to do in these letters. Okay? Every single letter rewrite will take about 2 hours. So much time we spend on each one of these, sometimes more. Okay? Every year, one of us will get a handwritten counselor questionnaire that was definitely done 2 minutes before they turned it in, usually from an IB student. To my IB students in here, sorry, it's true. Okay, and I'll get somebody who turns in a 20-page counselor questionnaire with pictures and wonderful flowery language. Who gets a better letter? Why? It gives me more to write about. Absolutely. I can give a better, fuller picture of the student who gives me more information. Now, 20 pages is too long. That is too long. A good counselor questionnaire is going to be 7 to 10 pages typed. There are 26 questions we're asking you to answer. A good one is 7 to 10 pages.
I think we even condensed it down to 18 for you.
But is it down to 18 now?
I think it's down to 18,
that.
but
Okay.
there are 4 important ones for your parents as well.
Yes.
So your parents are going to be involved in this process. We get a lot of good additional information from your parents. I'm answering those questions as well.
Okay. Question.
Do you want these questions to be filled out on the questionnaire doc or on a separate?
Great question. So when you actually connect that link, that QR code there, okay, that will take you to a Google Doc, which will require you to copy that Google Doc. Okay, so it's going to open up and say, make a copy, and you're going to click yes. It's going to create a copy on your Google Drive. You are going to fill it out on the Google Drive. Okay, you can download it to Word if you want. It doesn't really matter, but Google Drive is the easiest because we all have Google Drive. Okay, when you're done with the counselor questionnaire, you're going to be submitting your materials online. That's that final link. It's a video on how to do that as well. Okay, all these links are also in School Links. All these links are also on the Claremont High School website. It's all over the place, okay? But this is the cheat sheet. It makes it easy. It's all right in one place. Make sense? Okay? Your teacher questionnaire is right there as well. Your teacher's job and what they're supposed to do in the letter is to represent you as a student within their classroom. It's a very focused letter that the teacher writes. Their questions are significantly shorter than ours, okay? Because it's a much more narrow field that they're actually talking about. Does that make sense? Your teacher materials are due at the same time, September 26th. So you need to submit those by emailing them directly to your teacher. Again, if you look at the teacher questionnaire, the instructions are in there how to do it. You also will find instructions under the submitting materials QR code there. Okay? Anything else I missed on that?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Let's go to community colleges. All right. I saw one hand up for community colleges. I'm going to change that today, I hope. Okay? Here's the reason why. We talked about a balanced list. You should be at least considering adding a community college to your safety schools. Okay? Let's talk about this for a second. Why would somebody go to a community college?
So they can tutor transfer out.
Okay, number one, to transfer. Okay, that's actually not the number one reason, though.
It's not very expensive.
There's the number one reason. Cost. Okay, does anybody know what it costs to go to Cal Poly Pomona per year, rather?
A large.
I think about $6,000.
Semester, yeah. A year is about 14. Okay. That's not cheap, is it? Okay. When you add in the fees and other things, it's about 14. Okay. What does it cost to go to Citrus College for 2 years to get your transfer degree and transfer? Let me know. If you're part of the early decision program, which is the partnership between Claremont High School and Citrus College, your tuition is paid for. It's free. You're saving a significant amount of money. At a Cal State, it'll buy you a car. If you're going to a private school, it's going to buy you a really nice car, right? So it's something you should at least be considering as a backup option. Another reason you should be considering the community college as a backup option is because of the transfer benefits you get. Okay, what is the percentage of students who get into UCLA every year?
Like 3.
8%. It's not quite, but I'm going to use 8% because it's an easy number. Okay, 8%. That's how many students. So out of 100 students, 8 will actually get into UCLA. It's not very high. Okay. If you were to attend Santa Monica City College, be part of their transfer admissions guarantee, and then transfer to UCLA as a junior, what is your admissions rate then?
Like 40%?
Nope.
It says guarantee. Like, is it 100%?
It's 100%. You complete the transfer admissions guarantee at Santa Monica City College, it's a 100% transfer into UCLA. That's the truth. Okay, but that's Santa Monica, and I can go to Citrus for free, right? Okay, all of you are in an AP Econ, which means all of you, I believe, have a pretty decent GPA. True? Okay. You all qualify for the honors program at Citrus College. If you do 2 years in the honors program at Citrus College, your transfer rate to UCLA is 80%. That is 10 times better than you going directly to UCLA as a freshman. You guys see how this works? Okay. Transfer rates are significantly better, especially at Cal States and UCs, as a incoming junior, as a transfer junior, than they are as an incoming freshman. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. What's next? Sorry, I got lost. Oh, this is your job. This is you.
This is me.
This is you,
This is
Mr.
your
Anderson.
job.
You're the expert on NCAA.
Used to be, no. At this point, you're all seniors. If you're planning on playing a Division I or Division II sport, you should probably already be in contact with those coaches at that college level. So they should be kind of advising you through that. But I think the best thing or the most important thing for you to do right now is when you come next week and you're meeting with your counselors during that senior credit check, let your counselor know that that is your plan, or you're still on path in doing that. Because we're going to monitor your grad requirements. We're going to make sure you're on track to graduate. We're going to monitor the A through G, making sure you're meeting the admissions requirements. But if you let us know that you're a prospective Division I or II athlete, we're going to make sure that we're monitoring those NCAA requirements. Because at times, what may seem like an elective course to you, and you make some adjustments and you drop out of that elective course because you don't need it for graduation, you don't need it for the A through G, it might pull you out of your eligibility for the NCAA. So again, Make sure you're communicating with your counselor. You should have already registered for the NCAA Eligibility Center. If not, get that done. And then a final transcript was sent last year if you've already done that. And we'll make sure a final transcript is sent this year. But like I said, seniors now, college coaches are working with you, and they're going to make sure that all that's done, but make sure that we're aware of that as well so we don't make any adjustments that might affect your athletic eligibility for scholarships.
If you are an athlete and you're like, I want to play sports in college, but I don't understand what Mr. Anderson is talking about, please come see us. Deal? Okay. Let's bump down to transcripts next. Transcripts are $20 total. If you had older siblings come through Claremont High School, the policy used to be $10 per school. So we have kids applying to 20 schools and spending $200 on transcripts. We don't do that anymore because that's ridiculous. So it's $20, and as many schools as you apply to, we send transcripts to. We simplified it to make it cheaper for you as students. So that's the way transcripts work. To request transcripts, what you're going to do is you're going to go on School Links and add your applications. When you add your applications, it will ask you whether you want to request a transcript there as well. It's very simple, okay? Excuse me. Moving down, let's talk about standardized testing and admissions tests. I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Anderson.
All right. Yes, so this has been ongoing. A lot of changes in the last 2 years. We're usually waiting each year. What is it going to be for the class of 2022? What is it going to be for the class of 2023? So we have it for the class of 2023. We know Cal State's and UC's. If you're planning on applying to any of those institutions, test scores are not required. They're not going to be read. They're test blind. So they're not going to use it as part of the admissions process. So even if you go and you have a great score on that and you submit it, they're not going to look at it, not going to be considered. So we know that. Now, when we move outside of the Cal State and UC, it's going to vary from campus to campus. About 65% of them are going to be test optional. That means you have the option of taking one of those tests. The information that we get back from those campuses for test optional, if you test and you're within or above that range of students who have been admitted to that school, you might want to submit that test score because it might enhance your application. But if you test and you find your scores below that range, you might not want to submit those test scores because they're going to use them as part of your application. If you do not submit test scores, they're going to read your application and not factor in an SAT or an ACT exam. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't test or you should test? It's going to be case by case, and you're going to have to make that decision. I always recommend not only looking at admissions because they're going to have whether they're test blind, and we just kind of went over where you should submit that or not, but also looking at their financial aid page. Because there are some schools, if you want to be eligible for scholarships within that school, they require you to have an SAT exam, and you have to submit that for those scholarships and everything there. So look at the admission side, look at that financial aid side to see if it's required or not as well.
All right, show of hands. How many plan to get a D or an F in AP Econ? Raise your hand for me.
I want to get a D and an F in English.
So, nobody wants to get a D or an F in this class? You sure? No? I know, he's taking notes over there. Okay, guys, none of us plan to, right? Here's what you need to understand. Second semester, senioritis starts to kick in. Some of you start to slack. Okay, you will get your admissions in March, April. In May, you will pick the school you're planning, you're going to attend. You're going to put down a deposit. You're going to say no to those other schools. June comes around, you get a D in AP Econ. You still graduate. A D's graduation. Dum, da, da, dum, 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 hey, woo. Throw the hat. Okay, all wonderful. Until you hit July and you get a letter from the college you plan on attending, let's say UCLA, and UCLA says, you got a D in AP Econ. We don't want you anymore. Your admissions have been rescinded. That does happen every year. Okay, you don't want that to be you. Do we understand? We were talking to Mr. Sieg earlier today. Mr. Sieg is a college basketball coach in addition to being a high school econ teacher. And he was letting us know one of his recruits got a letter for getting a B- in AP Physics. You cannot let your grades slip second semester or this semester, but especially second semester. That's when most students get senioritis. You have to keep working all year long. Does that make sense, guys?
Rule of thumb, they expect you to enroll in the same rigor you took before, so they don't want you to drop off and go from taking 6 challenging courses to 4, getting out early. And they expect you to perform at the same rate or better than those grades that came in. So if you're a 4.0 student, they expect you to finish that senior year with a 4.0.
Okay. College reps will be on campus, so if you haven't attended a college rep visit, look on SchoolLinks. It actually shows you when they're coming, and you can register for college rep visits on SchoolLinks. It's a great way to connect with colleges and learn more about them. In addition, we will start senior credit checks next week. So we'll be meeting with you one-on-one to go over your credits and make sure we talk about college stuff. Okay? Oops.
Question.
So for the credit checks, it says that it's during your English class. I have English 101 second semester.
We're going to see you one-on-one at a different time. We already know. There's about 180 students who don't have English this semester. It's quite a few. So, okay. Let's push off and let's talk about financial aid. So, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to financial aid, but before I do that, I want to remind you about an upcoming event. Financial Aid Night is, October 27th. Okay? That morning in homeroom, we actually have a financial aid video we're prepping for you to get you ready. That night, we have experts from APU's financial aid department and maybe Citrus as well coming to talk with you and your parents. It'll be a webinar, it'll be online, to talk with you about financial aid. This is a great opportunity to learn more about financial aid. So I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to it now. Okay? Generally speaking, we have 3 different types of financial aid. We have our government aid, our institutional aid, and our private aid. We're going to start with the government aid. Okay, government aid starts with something called the FAFSA. Have we heard that term before?
Yes.
Free application for federal student aid. That is the gateway to other financial aid. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, the FAFSA is actually an application for something called the Pell Grant. That's actually what it is meant to do, but it's used by everything else. So you apply for the FAFSA that enables you to be eligible for a Pell Grant. That is a federal government aid. It's free money. Anytime you hear grant is free money. Scholarship is free money. Okay? That is free money for you to go to college. There's also something called the Cal Grant. Like the Pell Grant, the Cal Grant gives you free money to go to college. That is based upon your state aid. So that comes out of the state of California. The Cal Grant only applies if you live in California and are going to go to school in California. So if you're going out of school or out of state for school, you will not have access to the Cal Grant. Does that make sense? That's that first area is federal aid, or government aid, I should say. The second area is institutional aid. This is money that's going to come from the schools you're actually applying to. Okay? So let's say you're going to apply to, I don't know, University of La Verne. That one's easy. You're going to apply to University of La Verne. You will have an opportunity to get institutional aid, and it'll come in one of 2 forms. One form will be need-based aid. One form will be merit-based aid or performance-based aid. Okay? Need-based aid. This is the college saying, hey, we want you to come to our school. But we also know that the cost for your family is high. So we want to give you money based on what your family can afford to entice you to come to our school. That is need-based aid. Okay? The other side of it, performance or merit-based aid, what that's looking at is attracting you based upon your grades and other attributes to come to that school. So let's say you're doing a rock star job here at Claremont High School. You apply to University of La Verne. University of La Verne, because you did an amazing job here with your grades, gives you an academic scholarship to entice you to come to their school. Does that make sense? Or, who plays a sport? I see a football player back there, right? Okay, you're playing football back there. You want to go to University of La Verne. You talk to the coach. Coach says, I want you on my team because you're going to come here and make my team better. You're going to perform on my campus, and they're going to be a good scholarship for that. Or music, or theater. There's lots of different scholarships out there for this. Okay, good general rule of thumb. The more competitive the school is, the more need-based aid they will offer, and the less performance or merit-based aid they will offer. Think about that for a second. If you are Pomona College, one of the most competitive institutions in the country, if you are Pomona College, the people who apply to Pomona College, The majority of them have above a 4.25 GPA. They do not need to attract applicants with higher GPAs, do they? They get them all. What they want is they want students from a variety of backgrounds. So they will look to offer and meet the needs of those students who maybe can't afford to go there to increase the diversity and increase and differentiate the culture on their campus. Whereas a place like University of Laverne, who wants to move up in the rankings, you guys have all heard of the rankings, the national rankings for colleges, right? Those little books that say the top 100 colleges, that's what they're trying to move up on. And to do that, they want to increase their incoming GPA. They want students who are more successful. Does that make sense? So they're trying to attract more successful students to their campus, and what they will offer then is more performance-based aid to attract that type of student. Make sense, guys? Okay, the last area of financial aid is something called scholarships or private aid. This is money that's coming from private organizations. Coca-Cola Foundation, Gates Millennial Scholarship, Posse Scholarship, Quest Scholarship. These are all nationwide scholarship searches that offer full ride scholarships to students. Okay, these are highly competitive scholarships, by the way. But it also includes scholarships that are local to you. Claremont Educational Foundation is one of our local organizations that supports our schools, right? Okay, they provide money to our students who apply for scholarships. Okay, good rule of thumb. If you apply for 10 scholarships, on average, you're going to get one of those scholarships. Okay, that one scholarship on average will be worth $500. That's the average, which will buy you a book when you get to college. Not a joke. One book.
Can't you just
Huh, Mr. Easton? Yep.
Can't you just pirate a book?
So one book is what's going to buy you when you get to college. Okay? You spent 10 hours on those scholarships, average of 1 hour per scholarship. That is legitimate. Okay? Average of 1 hour per scholarship. Is it worth it to apply to scholarships?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody says yes. Does anybody say no? Somebody can be brave and say no.
Honestly, I just said yeah because I think that was the answer you wanted to hear, but logically it's no.
So you don't think it is? Anybody work a job? Anybody have a job? Yeah? What do you make per hour? $15 an hour. Okay, you just spent 10 hours on 10 scholarships, got one of those, was worth $500. What's your pay rate there? $50 an hour. It is worth it to apply to these scholarships. There's actually a lot of scholarships that go unclaimed because nobody applies to them. So, where do we find these scholarships? Number one, you should be on SchoolLinks. Number two, FastWeb. Okay, FastWeb is a international scholarship search for both big scholarships and small scholarships. You create a profile, it searches for scholarships for you. Okay. Another place that you may not be thinking about is within your community. That means go ask your parents. Mr. Anderson and I are both Claremont Faculty Association members, teachers union members, right? Okay. So is Mr. Easton, but we ignore him. Our kids are eligible for scholarships through the Claremont Faculty Association. And every year, Claremont Faculty Association members' kids get those scholarships. It's actually pretty easy to get, too. That's one place for you to start looking. Ask your parents if their work or their other associations offer them. Look in your community as well. Claremont Educational Foundation, I mentioned them earlier. They offer scholarships as well. That'll come up later in the year. Okay? Anything else you want to add there, Mr. Anderson?
And scholarships? Nope.
Nope. Let's talk very briefly about fee waivers for...
Actually, before we go
Yeah,
there,
go
make
ahead.
sure CSS profile. So many of you are going to be applying to some very selective colleges. Some, kind of like Stanford, Pomona College, USC. They might require you to complete what they call the CSS profile. There's a link on that, or SchoolLinks. Got to get away from that link on SchoolLinks where you can go to the CSS profile. That opens October 1st, the same day that the FAFSA opens up. So that might be an additional step that you need for some of those schools as well.
Okay. For fee waivers, if you qualify for free and reduced lunch and you've completed the application, there are fee waivers available for the SAT, ACT, for transcripts, for college applications. If you're applying to UCs and Cal States, They will ask financial information about you and your family in the application, and they'll determine their own fee waiver. But there are fee waivers available for you if you need one. Okay. Next thing down here, college application workshops. We talked about this. Please take advantage of those. I'm telling you, it is much easier to have Mr. Anderson, myself, any one of the counselors quickly look at your applications and make sure there's no problems before you hit submit, than to come and deal with a problem afterwards. Okay, please come to those labs, ask us for help. Okay, and then October 12th is Career Day. We have a lot of things going on just for seniors on Career Day. There is a UC writing workshop where we get our friend to come down, it's a UC reader, to come down and to teach you how to effectively write your personal insight questions. Okay? It's a great opportunity, and those of you who have written it, right, bring it with you. Okay? It's a great opportunity to learn more about how you should be effectively writing for college essays. Also on that day, we'll be doing a Cal State and UC application workshop. Again, kind of like what we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but this will actually give you a chance to do it with us at the same time. Let's see here. What else do we got? October 27th, not on here, but that's really an important one with Financial Aid Night. Please don't miss that as well. All right, I've got one more thing before we go to questions. It is your senior year. Over the course of this year, you will get stressed out. If you're not stressed out, if this isn't providing you anxiety right now, it will tomorrow. It's going to happen. That's normal. Mr. Anderson and I have done this. I think I counted like 2,500 times with 2,500 different students over the years. Okay? We've done this repeatedly a lot. We're used to this. This is your first time. This whole process is all anxiety. That's okay. The more you get done early on, the better it will be for you. So if you haven't started working on stuff, you should start now. For those of you who have already gotten quite a bit done, it should be an easier process for you. Please keep working on this on a regular basis, but also recognize as you go through this whole year and begin to transition into adulthood, this is a hard year. We know that. Your counselors see that. We've been through this with many students before. Come and talk to us. If you're struggling with the applications, come and talk to us. If you're struggling with other stuff, come and talk to us. Do you guys get this? We want to be able to help you. We're not mind readers, though. Come and talk with us. Anything else?
You've already voiced it. You did an office hours, or not office hours, homeroom activity. And we've already saw some of the responses for seniors. I think every third one said they had some anxiety regarding the college applications. Take advantage of the resources and the time that we have on those Tuesdays and Thursdays for you. We've already shut the door for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders and said Tuesdays and Thursdays are reserved for seniors only during this time because we're going to be assisting them with the college application process. So make sure you're showing up. Yes, I understand it's at lunchtime. Some of you get off at 4th period. You have other things, but take advantage of that time because there's going to be multiple counselors there to help you with that. So take advantage of that time. Also, every Tuesday and Thursday in the library.
Starting October 1st.
Yep.
So it'll be in October. Okay, and November as well.
Yep.
We don't like it. We're not going to stop at October.
And that Wednesday, because I know a lot of seniors, they come, they take the senior photo. We're out there for 30 minutes as we're collecting notes from parent permission for seniors to leave. Take advantage of those workshops on that career day as well. We have one on financial aid, the UC Personal Insight workshop as well. So there's a lot of benefits for going and coming to that career day that's just built for you, for seniors. We tried to make sure we had things. We're doing a UC workshop, application workshop on that career day. We're doing Cal State workshop on that career day. So we tried to fit in things to help you through this process on that career day as well.
All right. We are done blah, blah, blahing at you. Questions from you to us. Come on, we're not that good. I know you have questions.
Have a nice day, Alex.
Yeah.
Bye, troublemaker.
No, but it is Friday, 6th period.
I know. I'm ready to be done. Bree, what's your question?
If I want to apply to a scholarship and they're asking me for letters of credit.
Oh, we didn't mention that. Thank you. We actually have said that in every presentation, but now. How many of you guys are applying to private schools? How many of you guys are not applying to any private schools at all? Okay. And I think that's the reason we didn't. So, but we need to mention this for the camera. So if you are not applying to a private school, you don't necessarily need to submit counselor questionnaires or teacher recommendations because you don't need them for Cal State's UCs or community college. However, you probably still want to. And the reason for that is scholarships many times will require letters of recommendation. And if you haven't submitted your materials on the 26th, that puts you at a disadvantage for getting scholarships as well. So even if you're not applying to any private schools, you still want to complete the counselor questionnaire and at least one teacher recommendation materials and submit those to your counselor and to the teacher.
And what you can do is on there, you can note for scholarship purposes only, so that when it comes in, your counselor, your teacher aren't confused about when this is due, what school you want it. So if you put for scholarship purposes only, I ask my students once I receive that, please give me 2 weeks notice of any scholarship that you're applying to so that I could prepare to write that letter. Don't come in, hey, Mr. Anderson, I told her in the folder that I got a scholarship is due tomorrow. It's gonna be hard for me to get that done. So if you give me 2 weeks notice, that gives me enough time to get that information on that scholarship and kind of tailor that letter towards that scholarship for you.
Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Just to clarify on the teacher and the counselor questionnaires, we just fill them out and then just email them to the teachers.
To the teacher you email. The counselor, when you actually submit online, there's a link on the Google, because ours has to come with some additional materials like your transcript fees. So that's all included on there. So you'll actually submit ours a little bit differently. But on here, if you actually click that view QR code, it's actually a video that will show you how to do that.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Great question.